Fantasy Blind Spot, where we shine the light on what you can't see.
He's a cornerstone piece. He's a guy you're going to want on your fantasy team.
It's all about them splash plays.
Oh my God, did that just happen? I can't believe he made that catch.
He's got that big playability.
The football gods made this guy to play football.
All right, so he's just an explosive runner. He's one of those guys that when he gets in the open space, he just puts his foot in the ground and he's gone. What's up, what's up? Welcome into Fantasy Blind Spot, where we shine the light on things you can't see. I am the Blind Guy. You can find me on X at theblindguyff. With me, as always, is my co-host, the crazy Canadian Sean Thompson. You can find him on X at Maximus8911. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And now that we're doing video, we got to hit you with the smash that like, smash that subscribe button. Check us out now that we're on video. We're on YouTube. We're on X. We're anywhere you can find us. Leave us comments. Let us know what you think. And welcome into the show. How you doing, bud?
Doing all right, and thanks for everybody for watching. It seemed our video kind of blew up everywhere, and nice to see. Surprising, too.
Oh, for sure. Can't
How you
complain
doing
about
today?
that. Not too bad. I actually, because we're doing video, had to give my boy Terrence a shout out there. This is the JSN shirt jersey that I won for our Colston Leveling bet last year. So gotta love when a bet pays off on time. So shout out Terrence. Thanks, bud.
Well, too bad it's not your team, though.
That's true, but hey, JSN, you know I'm a big fan of him. I have been since he came out, and he's an Ohio State guy. So figure I'd wear it for our NFC episode.
I like wearing my fantasy shirts, too.
Yep,
like
exactly.
Events where I'm playing against somebody that week, just hope they have a big game to shove it in their face. But before we came on, I was looking at like the latest stuff in space, and then I'm surprised this isn't really out there. But in 2024, in the Milky Way, they found an interstellar tunnel that connects to a different solar system.
You know what? I think you and I might have talked about that offline because they were saying that it was like proof of a wormhole, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yep, majorly crazy. And then did you see the video that's going around of this Trump shooting at that White House dinner?
No, I obviously didn't see the video, but it sounded like it was just a guy kind of just running and shooting like he was like Call of Duty style.
Well, the video that's going around, I think it's going viral because if I see a video, I think it's gone viral because I'm not
right.
I don't look for these things.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all these cops around, and there's a male cop in front of the metal detector scanner that you walk through, a tape in front of the table, and then there's one behind the table, and then along the wall there was 3 female cops, but the male cops are on either side of this table, so there's still room to go through the metal scanner, and the guy comes running through with the gun. The 3 female cops see the friggin' gun, and then they all friggin' like squat down and run away while the male cops start chasing them. I'm just like, that is bad optics for females being a cop.
Yes.
And all 3 of them left and like went out the first fucking door that was available. Just craziness.
Huh. Yeah.
And then I saw when I was going through that sort of stuff, they did a raid in Detroit, which is one of the most screwed up raids I'd ever friggin' heard of. So basically these undercover cops, they did a raid for this drug house, raided it, got the guy arrested, had him in the cop car, had some new decoys because the people that were showing up didn't know what the drug dealer looked like. So these decoys are now the drug dealers are undercover cops, right?
Yeah.
Well, the drug dealers show up. They start freaking doing their thing. Things get heated. Everybody pulls guns. There's like a whole big yelling. They figure out that, these new drug dealers that are showing up to buy the drugs from these undercover cops are actually undercover cops themselves, actually from another precinct trying to get the same drug dealer. So then it all cools down. Everything's fine. But then they get in a fight over jurisdiction, and a fist fight brawl breaks out between both detachments.
Man, I feel like I know a lot of cops. I could see both sides of it. Like, I know the kind of cops that would kind of have that fight. Like, even within the fire department, like you kind of have not fist fights, obviously, but like battles over who's going to be first in, right? I'm sure you have the same kind of thing with cops. And then on the other side of it, it's nuts. You got cops fighting cops trying to get the bad guys. And wait, what?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. I remember friggin' years ago, even before I started in corrections, because I'm in a corrections town. Yeah. There was a whole bunch of things going on. I think there was a riot or something. So they had a whole bunch of transfers going on at this time. So we had 11 different jails here. And there was like on the property, they used to have a bar where you can go and drink if you were like a guard or an employee of corrections. Like you had to be an employee to go there.
Yeah.
Well, so all these people after these escorts went there, mind you, they all went there in a paddy wagon because that's just what they were doing that day. A fucking brawl breaks out between these 11 friggin' jails and all the people there that basically people were pulling up the paddy wagons and throwing their own guys, like pulling them out one by one, getting them in the paddy wagon to friggin' bring it down. So I heard this story. It like reminded me of that. I was just laughing, going, oh yeah. I could see that.
For sure, especially because like there is something with being around your friends. Like you can let your guard down a little bit, be more like chill about stuff. So I could see how that could escalate quickly. Like maybe you say something off the cuff that like you don't know each other as well or something, you know?
Yep, for sure. But we had our first 2 drafts together, so thought we could go through those, let some people know what the fantasy landscape's looking like. So in this one, we'll go through our former one, which is a 1 quarterback league right now, but we're switching to a super flex league next year. So everybody's kind of in the process. But for this league, it doesn't matter because quarterbacks have been going early for a long time, even before we decided to make the switch. And it's one of the craziest drafts you'll probably see this year.
I would agree with that.
So you had the first 5 picks, but you traded out of 5. So you started out, you went Jeremiah Love, Carnell Tate, Mendoza, and then Jordan Tyson.
Yeah, that I think is pretty standard. Like that's the top 4 in most drafts that I've seen.
Who would you have taken at 5 had you kept that?
I was stuck between Price and Lemon, but as you know, like coming out, I wasn't the highest on Price. So I was probably, if I stayed, I was going Lemon.
All right. So the guy was looking at Price for 6. And you traded away, guy traded up, took Price. So Simpson, I was looking at 10. So I took him at 6 because I'm like, okay, this is my debate. Just because of the pure league. I'm like talking to Natalie and I'm like, man, I want to take Singleton here because I don't think he'll fall to me at 10. But I also got the problem of, will Simpson fall to me at 10? Because I want the both of them. And I think it's more important for my team to get Simpson because I also have Stafford and we're going to a super flex. So that's why I went with him. And then I hoped that Singleton would go for me, but he didn't fall to 10. 7 was another trade in after I went Simpson, paid a mitload more so than what guy paid for 5 for 7. And he took Malachi Lemon. 8 was KC Concepcion. 9 was Singleton. Like I said, went before my 10 pick. So 10, I was kind of stuck, tried to trade it. Nobody would trade with me. So I'm like, okay, I got to take Shadiq here. I don't really want to take a tight end, but I kind of have to. And then
that's good value at 10, I think, still.
Yeah, because now if you take my picks 6 and 10 and flip them, it's decent.
Right. It's about the same, essentially.
And then we had our first round end with Jeremiah Bernard and Chris Brazel to finish it off.
Yeah, those 2 were interesting to me, but when you got picks 11 and 12, you can kind of do what you want with them because that was the same owner for both.
Yeah. Well, I had the 2.1. We'll get to the second round. I was hoping for Jeremiah Bernard at 2.1, and that's why I didn't go wide receiver. So I had to start it with Jonah Coleman from the Broncos there. And then that's when we had our good little stint that we always do in that early second round, where it went Cooper Jr., Denzel Boston, and Eli Stowers.
Yep.
Just because running backs go so damn early.
Right, especially in this league, especially, and they're hard to trade for. That being said, I think it all started changing with my trade at 5, because after you took Simpson, there was that trade out, like you said, at 7, which made it seem like that was probably Simpson there. So I think you were right to end up taking him at 6.
Yeah, I think so too. After I looked at it, so at least I got one of my guys. Elsewise, here you traded into the 2.06 to take Antonio Williams. Skylar Bell went 2.05. I was surprised he went that high. Ted Hurst fell to 2.10. And then Malik Willis was a free agent, so Chris ended up sweeping him up at the 2.11, which I thought was good value there.
Yeah, I thought that was great value because there was no quarterbacks on the board that were going to give you anything close. And even in this draft class, like, is there any rookies that are going to outperform the numbers he can give you in a super flex league? Like, we're not yet, but if you need a starting quarterback, hello.
Well, that's just it too. And like, if you're drafted for value, you draft him, hope he does well, and then you can probably flip him for a first, and you've taken that 2.11 and now got a future first.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Savvy move there.
Pulling up the third round. I don't see any surprises. I got Caleb Douglas at the 3.04. Not that that's a surprise, but to get a early third round rookie in the third round is always a good thing.
Yeah, I thought so too. So good value there. I'm trying to think of who else was in the third round.
Well, we've got Drew Allard
Oh.
went before Carson Beck, which I was surprised about.
Yeah, that's just got to be opportunity, right? Thinking that Brissett is going to be the starter in Arizona, and since we still haven't heard from Rodgers, like I still think it's going to be Rodgers.
Oh, I
But
do too.
if it's not, well then now you have a chance. It could be Drew Aller, and Aller has the size and the arm. It's does he have it between the ears, and does he have that work ethic you need to be a quarterback in this league?
That's just it. So we'll see. But no real other surprises. In the fourth round, Bryce Lance went 4.02. Chris Rodriguez went 4.03. Zion Thomas went 4.04. I thought that was a steal.
Yeah, it could be, especially going to that Bears offense with Ben Johnson knowing how to use that speed.
Yep. And I think that they'll work good underneath with Odunze working the far deep stuff, right? And I also like Kevin Coleman for the Dolphins here at 4.05 because like that wide receiver room's wide open. So mid fourth, why not?
Agreed. And I think that receiver room being wide open is part of why Chris Brazel, I think, went in the first round in this league.
And then I got the steal of the draft at 4.11, man, with Justin Jolly.
Oh, I think so. That's actually a pick that I traded you. And after the fact, when I saw he was on the board at 11, I thought about trying to trade back for it.
Yeah,
like,
I wasn't expecting him there at all, so it surprised me. We also did a super flex one, so I'll call that up here. No real big surprises here. First round started Julian Love, Carson Tate, Mendoza, Tyson, Shadik, Lemon, Conception, and then Price kind of went to do the 1.8, I think it was. Yeah, 1.8, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about
right. Nick Singleton went 1.9, so also in the first round again. And then Cooper Jr., Ty Simpson at the 11th spot, finished off with Denzel Boston.
Yeah, so that's much more, I think, consensus.
Yeah,
only difference being that price could go anywhere from 5 to 9. Really just depends on
the third running back being Singleton's all interesting too, because he's going before a lot of backs that were drafted ahead of him.
Yeah, Jonah Coleman in particular was almost 2 rounds ahead of him in the third. And both these drafts, Jonah Coleman went after Nicholas Singleton. And I think is that people just hanging on to that freshman season we saw from him that was so incredible?
I think so, mixed in with the bad coaching that Penn State had last year and like just the debacle. And then once the coach was switched, they went more to a running back by committee than just one running back, which was him. And he got injured too. And then he hit that combine and they found that heart murmur, which is why he couldn't compete in the combine drills, which dropped his stock. There's a whole ton of stuff, but there's a whole ton of good stuff. So he's one of those guys, you're either a believer or you're not. So it's just interesting to see where he goes in the draft. And like, I haven't seen him hit the second round yet.
Actually, one of my other drafts, I got him at 205, what I thought was a killer value, but wasn't his injury foot? I thought he broke his foot at the Senior Bowl. I didn't know anything about a heart issue.
Well, he did break his foot at the Senior Bowl too, but they also found a heart murmur where they went back to a family doctor and he had proved that he'd had that since he was 4 years old. So then it was no big deal. Unlike Sean Tucker, where he had no past history of this heart murmur.
Yeah.
Well, just interesting.
Yeah, I think it's also an addition of how people feel about that Tennessee backfield, where right now it's Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Like, are those guys that really scare you?
No, there are 2 guys that I never liked coming out. There's 2 guys I've never liked since they were drafted. So for me, Singleton is worth a first round pick, and that's why I was even thinking about him at 1.6 in that one league that's RB heavy.
Right.
Yeah, our second round, Malik Willis went 2.04 here, so he went a little bit earlier. Other than that, Stowers went 2.01, Mike Washington at the 2.10, Chris Brazel, Antonio Williams, and then Jeremiah Bernard, and Chris Bell kind of in the middle of the round there.
Yeah, and that's where I think most drafts you're going to find them is that middle of the second.
Yeah, and then Carson Beck and Drew Allar again in the middle of the third, but Beck was first this time, so that's kind of where you're looking for them. I'm trying to see Justin went here in the fourth round again at 4.09.
For who?
Justin Jolly. So that's a steal in the
Yeah.
4th round as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and there's some of these later round guys, like I'm sure we'll get into a segment or talk about it throughout the show, but there's guys in the 4th round, I think that like call your shots on them. Once you hit the 4th round, you can take them anywhere. So
Oh, for sure. And then so that's our 2 drafts we've done already. And I got a comment here from Facebook that somebody made. I'm not sure if it was directed towards you or towards me. But Steven says, Moore is not Shakira, not even close. They didn't even have what they needed. Going to look it up, but only concern is if we don't have a field goal kicker, no pass rush, and secondary was weak in spots and injury prone. Lack of receivers. Coleman did not work out. I think Kincaid is extremely injury prone, and we're going to see a 3rd tight end in rotation into a starting spot. Not his fault, but 200 more. The guy just can't stay healthy. So I don't know if that was towards you saying that they had a receiver type that they liked and mentioned DJ Moore and Shakira and like Curtis Samuel and all that, which I thought that was just more for the point on how they run routes and they're like precise route runners and crisp and all that sort of stuff. Or if it was my comment to say that Skylar Bell was basically the replacement for Shakir if Shakir goes down, because I see them as very similar play style.
Yeah, that's what I meant is like they do seem to have a type of receiver. And I agree, DJ Moore is much better than Khalil Shakir. That's just one of those things. Like they do have that similar play style. DJ Moore, I agree, is better because he can do everything. But they do similar things on the field in similar areas of the field.
Yep, and that's the same with Skylar Bell, right? Like he's that gritty type of route runner, can go on the inside of the slot or the outside, and that's more of what it was a type of bout, not necessarily skill level.
Yep.
But we can get in, talk some ball.
Yes, sir.
Time for the Grape Light, where we discuss what's happening around the league.
All right, time for the newsroom, and let's see what we got here. The Colts have already declined Anthony Richardson's 5th-year option for 2027. They didn't have to make this choice until next year, but they're just going to go ahead and make this already and say, hey, you're leaving. So I think you could probably get him for a 7th-round pick right now.
Yeah, probably. And that's one of the things. The thing that's so interesting about it is that they picked him at 4 overall. And we really haven't seen a lot of him. And I think that's part of it is looking at it and going, well, we haven't seen anything yet.
And what did I say coming out? He was not worth a fucking 1st-round pick. The guy will throw a beautiful throw every 3 or 4 games where you're like, that's why we got him. And he can run like the freaking winner. He is like Cam Newton when he runs, but he is inaccurate and throwing the ball. And then he'll do that one. And you're like, okay, he's starting to put it together. And then it's like 3-4 games without it. And then it comes back again. Like that's just been his whole career. Like he needs to switch positions.
It's also inexperience, right? Like even in college, he only had what I want to say 20 starts, if that. Yeah, 12. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even when you go back to his high school numbers, I know we've talked about this before, but in high school he started 4 years. He had 12,000 rushing yards, I think it was, and only just under 5,000 passing yards. Well, Joe Burrow for his 4 years of high school had over 12,000 yards passing and 166 touchdowns. Like you're just not on that level. I don't know. People fell in love with his athleticism and his run ability, but he doesn't have it.
Well, and your body's got to hold up too, which has been another problem. And even last year, it was a broken orbital, right? Got headbutted by a teammate or something.
Yeah, and then remember he freaking did that one run, and then he freaking took himself out because he was tired. What the hell are you doing? We also got DK Metcalf is not to be charged from that incident in Detroit with the fan.
Yeah, I saw that. Good news for DK.
Yep, and then also for hospital stuff, or not charges, Legarius Sneed charges were dropped for the shooting thing he was involved in.
Yeah, and that was the one. It sounded like the details were kind of hazy. I think he was just there, right? Not necessarily involved in it.
Yeah, something like that. Like I don't know. It's a little bit weird to begin with. We also have Green Bay signed backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor. So I guess Jordan Love's going to go to the moon this season because tends to be what happened. You had he took the needle, and then Justin Herbert came into the NFL, and then he went to wasn't he with the Giants? And Jackson Dart went off.
Yeah. Yep. It's kind of crazy that he's still moving around the league, still playing.
Yeah, well, he knows how to be a professional. We also had the Giants signed defensive tackle G.J. Reader to a 2-year deal worth $12.5 million, can go up to $15 million with incentives.
And this is the one, I don't know if you saw it. I think they had hinted or rumored at it before the draft, and it was kind of, we want to see how the draft goes because if we get a particular guy we want, we might not need to. But this was one that I think they were talking about even during the draft, that they were expected to sign him after the draft. So cool to see. Good addition for them too.
Yeah, now do you think that does anything for the Thibodeau trade that's supposed to be coming out?
No, I don't necessarily think so because it's only $6 million a year. That's not bad for a defensive tackle. That's pretty cheap.
No, I mean it makes it a little easier to trade Thibodeau.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So then we also have Lawrence Taylor's out of the hospital with his stomach issues. Going to be back on the golf course shortly, he says. Good to hear. Stephon Diggs was found not guilty of his assault charges for strangling that girl. There was no evidence whatsoever, so they just threw that case out.
Yeah, good news for Diggs too. I'm not sure he'll end up on a team anyway, though.
No, he's still got that messed up attitude that he's got, right? Like all those clips when he's in Minnesota, like who wouldn't you want to date your sister? And every single person saying Diggs.
Not great. Not great.
There's a reason for that. And then we got the NFL Refs Association has a vote scheduled for this Thursday to vote on the contract that they've been offered from the NFL. So we might not have holdout refs.
And for referees' sake and for fans' sake, I'm hoping we don't have replacement referees, but it does sound like they might actually be coming to a deal here. So
yeah, be good. And then just on a fun note here, Maurice Jones-Drew's son Deuce has committed to UCLA.
All right. Well, that'd be interesting to follow him.
He's got the same measurable metrics as MGD does, like 5'8", 210, like the same little bowling ball.
Crazy lower half.
Yep. But alrighty. Well, shall we get into our draft grades for the NFC?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals. They had the 3rd pick overall to start this draft, and they did the surprise pick and took Jeremiah Love. I know Schrager talked about them taking him before the draft, but I still didn't believe it until I saw it, and they actually took Jeremiah Love.
They did. So what grade did you end up giving?
Niners fan, having to go after him twice a year, but.
Yep. What grade did you give them?
Let's see here. Well,
I
feel like that they got Carson back in the 3rd. I thought that was a great little fit for them, especially after think they were going after Ty Simpson. So he was kind of like a, backup pick, I think. But I gave them a B.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so I was a little more optimistic. I gave him an A-. One of those reasons I went with an A- is because Jeremiah Love at 3, like, it's great to add a player like Jeremiah Love. I'm just not sure you spend a 3rd round pick or 3rd overall pick on a running back there. Like, just the contract alone is going to be $50 million, which makes him essentially like paid as one of the highest end defensive edge players. So that's just kind of crazy to me. That being said, though, their 2nd round pick, Chase Basantis, I thought he could have been a 1st round pick. So to get him at the 2nd where they did, I like their draft overall. And then they kept addressing offensive line and defensive line later on in the draft. So
yeah,
overall,
in the 7th round, they took a guy from Ole Miss, and in the 5th round, they took a defensive tackle, Caleb Proctor from Southeastern Louisiana. But the way I look at this, man, Jacoby Brissett, if I'm the Cardinals GM, you want to hold out for more money, that's fine. I don't want to play you anyways because you're going to make us win some games here. I'm going to play Carson Beck, and you're either going to swim or you're going to sink. And if you sink, that just means I've got more ammo to get Arch Manning and bring him in here with Jeremiah Love, Marvin Harrison Jr., McBride, and Michael Wilson. Like that, to me, if you can get Manning, that makes this Jeremiah Love move worth it. I don't know if we'll see how it goes because like it didn't work out for the Giants with Barkley, right? Like they just kept continuing to struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And Jeremiah Love is a game changer. So you got to appreciate the fact that you're getting a game changer on your team.
Yeah, another playmaker, which they need, but they also need a lot of defensive line help too. So
Right. And
we'll
I
move
think
on
they,
to
I
the.
think they get, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say we'll move on to the San Francisco 49ers here. Who I gave
Mhm.
a B minus. Again, fucking John Lynch pissing me off in another goddamn draft year. What did you end up giving them?
I gave him the same B minus. I thought about going C just because there's some like head scratchers in here. Like Stribling,
I
you did
thought
not have to take there at 33, but it also sounds like they tried to trade back and nobody was having it.
Yeah, but still, like, fuck, Stribling in the top of the second round to me, that just like a head shaker. So then I went back and did the past drafts, man, and I looked at, and they also took a running back here when they get him in the third round, right?
Yeah, third round, and that was another one that I was just like, what? I don't understand. Keelan Black, and that was the guy that they probably could have gotten the fifth or sixth.
Yeah, exactly. And now look at this. So they took last year, they took Jordan
Mhm.
James, the
Jordan
running
James.
back in the fifth round. They also took Watkins, wide receiver in the fourth round, Ricky Purcell the year before, round
Yep.
1, Cowan round 4, that Isaac Garendo guy in round 4, the running back. The year before that, in the third round, they took TDP, the running back, Danny Gray. The year
Yeah,
before that, they took Trey Sermon round 3. Year before that, they took Brandon Ayuk round 1. Year before that, they took Debo Samuel year 2, Jalen Hurd round 3. The year before that,
man, that's a
Dante
blast from the
Pettis round 2, and the year before that, and in that same year as Dante Pettis, they took running back Joe Williams in the fourth round.
Yeah, Joe Williams was the pounding the table guy, right? The
Yeah,
famous Kyle Shanahan.
yeah.
Yeah, man, it seems like position players, running backs and wide receivers in particular, it just doesn't make sense. And then there was the whole story of like they say, well, they don't care about consensus. We can see that in their draft picks, but they like to point at George Kittle as the win, right?
Well,
In the
they
fifth
do
round.
well on those rounds 5 and beyond. They do okay on, but those first 4 rounds, I wouldn't let John Lynch touch any of those picks. He does nothing but fuck them all up. And there's a guy out there. He's done the of the current people that are GMs right now and their hit rate.
Yeah.
John Lynch is 32nd on the hit rate. Not only is he 32nd, his non-hit rate is at something at like 86% miss. The next
Jeez.
closest at 31, they're at a 68% miss. So you're like 15% worse than the next worst guy.
Now, was that talking about like taking in and factoring like where they were picked versus where they were expected to be picked? So
Yeah.
like they're hitting on those later round picks, but that's also when they tend to be taking people at their expected value. Was kind of the gist I was getting from that. If it's the same
Yeah,
story we're
it's
talking
like the
about
hit
here.
rate, right? So like these guys
Yeah.
that they take in the early rounds, and I think the guy only did the first 3 rounds, which is the rounds I complain about most about fucking Lynch. And
Yeah.
he's horrible. He's just fucking horrible. Like Zion Stribling, I think you could have got him in the 4th round. So if you had him like and you're going a defensive tackle in the 4th round, why not get a better defensive tackle at 2.01? There was still a ton of great ones on the board at that time.
Yeah. And it said, like I said, there were stories saying that they tried to trade back and they just couldn't move back off the pick. And they said if they had to stay in the first round, they would have taken him in the first round, which is a little crazier to me, honestly. But maybe you were asking too much if you couldn't move back because you had no problem moving out of the first round. You traded back, what, 3 times?
Oh yeah, that was their plan all along. We didn't have very many
Yeah.
picks, so 3 times out of the first, and then that's all they did. They trade a second one. I think they traded again in the second. I think they had 2 seconds, but they traded back into the third, which is how they got Black and another guy. And then did you see all the 49ers too that messaged Black after he was drafted? There's like Christian
No, I didn't.
McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Ricky Purcell, Fred Warner, and Nick
Jeez.
Bosa all like texted him. Nobody else on this draft class, just all them texted him. Like, what makes him so special? To me, he's just another guy on this long list of Kyle Shanahan running backs that just isn't going to work out.
Yeah, personally, that's how I feel about him too. I think though he is one of those guys coaches like where he is going to be where you expect him to be. He's going to get what's there. He's not going to try to do too much and dance around and then lose you yardage. So he's one of those guys that I think coaches are going to love. And
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
they took him in the third round, so obviously they like him quite a bit.
Yep. Well, shall we move on to the Los Angeles Rams draft class? So I gave them a B. I thought they did well. They said they didn't see any, but they thought about Lemon at where did they take Simpson at 13,
13.
but they just didn't think he would make an impact with what their roster is right now. Well, your YR3 isn't that great. I think Lemon would have been a lot better than who you have, but at the same time, I also like this Ty Simpson pick because me and you have said all along that he needs a couple years to develop. Now you're bringing him in. He gets to sit behind Stafford and learn from McVay. So by the time he actually gets a shot, he should be ready to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to get to see how Stafford prepares for games, the work ethic he puts in, what it takes to be not just a starting caliber quarterback, but I mean, we're talking about MVP last year, Matthew Stafford. So that's awesome to have a situation like that for Simpson. And I think it was one of those things too, where sitting at 13, it might be a situation like the 49ers had where they wanted him, they were comfortable taking him there. They were going to try to trade back if they could. But I also think there was some of that, well, we never really have first round picks, so we'll just take it.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I thought too. And then, like we said last episode, we briefly talked about it. Like people saying that McVay wasn't happy with the pick. No, they're lock and step. I don't care what anyone says. Who cares how they react? Like they probably knew they were getting him weeks ahead of time because Simpson wasn't even talked about until the late first round. So they had no worries to even trade up to try to get him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And did you see the comments that came out from McVay shortly after our last podcast, actually, where he said part of that was intentional. He was purposely acting like that because he didn't want to go out there being all excited because this is still Stafford's team. And
well, yeah, you got that there too, right? So, and they did do it right too. They called Stafford, said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to be drafting this, unlike the Cousins things." But it's also way different than the Cousins thing too, because Cousins was just getting to that team. He hadn't established himself. Stafford's won a Super Bowl with the Rams, so it's well known this is Stafford's team until he's gone. So to now bring in Ty Simpson, like there's no debate. When you brought in Penix to compete with Cousins, there was that debate always there. You're always going to have that first round chant. I don't think you're going to get that first round chant here with the Rams.
Yeah, I would agree. And I don't know if I said or not, but I also gave them a B.
Yeah.
So
what you think of their other picks, Max Clare, their second round pick?
And that's one of the reasons I actually B minus, I'm sorry. And that was one of the reasons right there is I like Max Clare. I like the player, but I don't understand it. You just spent a second round pick on Terrence Ferguson last year. And I think this is their 7th tight end on the roster now, if I remember right. Like it's crazy. What are you doing?
Well, they got him, Kobe Parkinson,
Tyler Higbee's still on the roster.
Tyler Higbee's still there.
Davis Allen, I think, is still on the roster.
Yep, Dennis Allen. It's crazy. They got a lot of guys, man. But McVay's system, Kyle Shanahan's system, they all go through the tight end, so you need at least 3 of them. They got to get rid of Higbee. I know that they, dedicate it to him because he's been there a long time.
He maybe retired last year.
Doesn't have it anymore.
Yep. Hasn't really played a whole lot of games either.
Nope. And then they got a tackle, which you can always use. They got CJ Daniel from Miami in the 6th round. I thought that was decent. I think he's got a good chance to be the YR3 there too. I don't mind him.
Yeah, I would agree. He was one of the sleeper picks that I kind of liked in their later round picks that boosted their grade a little. I like what he was able to do at Miami, and I like his play style. He's that physical possession kind of guy, good route runner, and he can do the contested catch if he really has to. Yep. I think he'll fit that McVay system nicely.
Yeah, be interesting to see because like that YR3 there doesn't get a lot of work, so they still got that.
He needs to go get an Adams. He needs to go get an Adams back pocket.
Yep, somebody or Puka's too. Somebody's.
Yeah.
Well, all right, we can move on. All right, we'll go on to the Seahawks here now. I gave them a B+. Thought they had a decent grade. They started out the back of the first with the surprise in Jerry Bryce, but he kind of fits their team and what they need. But he's kind of like Zach Charbonnet too.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting things. Like when this pick happened, like we kept seeing rumors of it. I'm like, I don't think they're going to do that. That sounds too much like Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the Chiefs the year the Chiefs won. But they did it, and the more you look at it, the more it's like, okay, well, actually, that fits along with what Charbonnet had and is. And with Charbonnet coming back with the injury, and the injury was late enough, you might just get almost a whole year of price. At least I would think 10 weeks or so, based on how late that injury was. And if he is Zach Charbonnet, Well, then you got him at 32. That's still a good value for you because they were able to bring some guys back. They lost some to free agency, but they're going to get those comp picks next year.
Yep, for sure.
So
But
I think it's a
I
good
also
spot for
like
Seattle.
they took Bud Clark from TCU, which I think fits their mold and what they like to do, kind of like the Legion of Boom type of days at the safety position.
Yep, he was another one. I really like that value getting him at 64 because I thought he could have been middle of the second. But again, this draft class, those corners dropped, and there was offensive guys that went in the first that pushed some defense down. Got a good value there at the end of the second.
Which really worked right into the Seahawks draft plans, I think, because they lost a lot of guys in free agency on the defensive side of the ball after the Super Bowl. So they were able to fill in a bunch of holes.
They did. Who'd they take in the third? Because I think that was another pick that I ended up liking
They took
as a good value.
cornerback Julian Neal from Arkansas.
Yep. So another good value there. Like we said, these corners kept balling. I like what they were able to do in the mid round. I don't love Price at 32. I mean, I love it for fantasy.
I think
But-
that was just like big in need, and they missed out in free agency. Did they
Right.
go after ETN?
No, I thought they were gonna. I think their plan was to try to bring back Walker, and then Walker they realized was just gonna get way too much. And I think it was just they weren't gonna pay a free agent a certain amount because they probably knew they could get Price at 32.
For sure, for sure. All right, shall we move on to the next team, which is the New York Football Giants? What grade did you give them?
So I gave them an A, and I loved what they did at the top. I thought one of the downsides was they didn't have a third round pick, I think it was, or a second.
Third.
They're-
No, they had a second, a third. They didn't have a fourth.
That's what it was. So there was one round they were missing, which is what made me consider bringing it down. But I just getting Orville Reese, and then you're also getting Francis Mauigoa. Like you improve both lines immediately with your first two
Well,
picks. You gotta love it.
Not only that, they come back in the second round. They take Colton Hood, the cornerback, who I think is first round talent from Tennessee.
Exactly.
So now
Right.
you got 3 first round talents on your team. And then
Yep.
in the third, they got Malachi Fields, who's one of my sleepers for this class with how big he is and how fast he is. He's
Right,
got a
and-
lot of coaching he needs, but so you fixed a lot of holes in those first 4 picks, which were glaring needs for the Giants. So I don't know how you don't give them an A.
Right, exactly. And with Fields too, he was one that we thought could be in the second. A lot of mock drafts had him in the second round. And to be able to get him the way they did, like you said, it's really like they had 4 picks in the first 2 rounds based on a lot of common mock drafts that we saw. So
Yeah.
I
The
think they
John
did great here.
Harbaugh era is starting out great
Yep.
for the football Giants, and it's good to see because they've been bad for so friggin' long, man. It seemed like the only people they could beat in the playoffs was the 49ers, but that was more of the 49ers screwing up, like that Kyle Williams punt return to end the game, and then he fumbled,
Oh,
which
yeah.
gave the Giants the ball to go ahead, and then they just couldn't go
Yeah.
on, like crazy stuff like that. And then you got Eli Manning would make it to those Super Bowl in those times and win, but otherwise they've been shitty teams. So it'd be nice to see the Giants be good again.
Yeah, I agree. And that offense is starting to look a lot more exciting.
Yep. All right. We'll move on to the Washington Commanders. And now they got a guy who I think they were just gifted to. Fits Dan Campbell's system perfect, and Sonny Styles in the first round. Like I ended up giving the Commanders an A because I thought their first 3 picks here were amazing as well.
See, I was a little harsher. I gave him a B. Like that's harsh. But it was just because of they didn't have a whole lot after that. They just didn't have a lot of capital. They traded a lot of it in the offseason trying to make their team better. So it was one of those things. I love the Sonny Styles pick at 7. I can't believe he fell to 7 for them. Like that improves his defense so much. So that's where I went with a B. It wasn't that they were bad picks. It was just they didn't have a lot.
No, and I don't hold that against them either. So I just go by
Yeah.
what they had. Getting Antonio Williams in the top of the third round as a wide receiver, I thought that's a good, nice wide receiver to bring in for Jalen Daniels to start growing with. He can learn off Scary Terry, and he's bigger than what we thought he was going to be before the combine. So, like I said, he jumped up in my rankings, but he's jumped up in everybody's rankings. So
Yeah,
he's going to be a hard
absolutely.
guy to get in fantasy if you want him. I think you got to get him right around 2.6, 2.8 tends to be where he's going. And then they didn't have a pick until the 5th, and then They've got an edge guy, which they need edge rushers from Tennessee. They took a running back in the 6th from Penn State. The second guy, Kaychon Allen, who was split carries with Singleton. So that's not bad considering their running back room. But the quarterback in the 7th round from Rutgers, Alan Kalikomenis, that to me was an odd pick.
It was, and I think there's some particular skill that he has that they like, because he's a name that I had heard like one other time, and I didn't know how to pronounce it, and I only remembered it because they were talking about the Rutgers quarterback, and I think it's the smarts, like that preparation. I think he could be maybe their practice squad guy. There's something about him that they really liked, that they were afraid another team was going to sign him undrafted.
Which is just weird to me.
Yeah, right. Especially like with this underwhelming quarterback class that we've got.
Yeah, he just doesn't seem like a guy I would have to rush out and get. But what do I know? These teams have more information than I do. They pay people to
for sure
go and do it. So let's move on to America's favorite team in the Dallas Cowboys. I gave them an A. I thought Jerry had a great friggin' draft. They traded up that one pick because they didn't want anyone to trade in front of them to get Caleb Downs, which I think we said the pre-draft process. I know I did at least. Like, this is a perfect pick. This is who the Cowboys need with that first pick, and they end up getting them. And then their second pick in the first round, they come back and take Malachi Lawrence. But with how those edge rushers went, I think he was the best available one at that time.
I agree. And then I think they ended up not having a second round pick because of that deal, right?
Yep.
So with some teams, you look at it and go, man, they got a guy in the second that was a first round talent. I'm looking at this like he was the highest upside, I think, left on the board at that point. And like, yeah, some teams had him in the second, but they wanted to make sure they got him, and they made sure they got both guys that they wanted in Malachi Lawrence and Caleb Downs, and they made their defense much better. I thought this was a great draft.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. They also took a quarterback in the 5th named Cole Payton from North Dakota State. I don't know. They don't typically work out there. I know that's where Josh Allen's from, isn't it?
No, Josh Allen's Wyoming. North Dakota State is Carson Wentz.
Okay. And it was also Trey Lance.
Trey Lance.
I just thought Allen was from that tree for some reason. They took a tackle, too, in the 4th out of Miami, Markel Bell, which was great friggin'
Yeah, I thought that was a killer value, too.
That's the Eagles. They took Drew Shelton from Penn State in the 4th. And then in the 4th, they also got LT Overton, which is great value from Alabama as an edge rusher. So I think the Cowboys hit everything they needed to hit. I need to find out a little bit more about their 7th round pick that they took from the small school of East Carolina, Anthony Smith.
I can tell you about him. I like him. I had him on our college league last year, and he's one of those speed guys. His average line was like 4 for 150 and a touchdown kind of deal. So he's a touchdown guy, deep threat, crazy speed. So it brings another element that Dallas hasn't necessarily had, or they've been trying to find that speed guy on the outside. It hasn't quite worked out. He's like a Kevontae Turpin guy, but he's a little taller, I think, at 5'11".
All right. So he'll be like a gimmicky guy, not someone I'm really going to want for fantasy. So he's probably Turpin's in case Turpin goes down, because they had problems when Turpin went down last year.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is.
So it just seems like that. But yeah, decent overall. Let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles and what their picks were. So they started out in the 1st. They got Malachi Lemon. Just going to tell me A.J. Brown's on the move. I gave the Eagles an A too.
Yep, I also gave them an A. Howie Roseman, he has guys just fall in his lap. It's crazy how it works.
Well, he's just smart, right? Like, I think Howie Roseman's mind's always open to dealing, trading, and it's always open to who's on the board. And when he says, this is my board, I don't think he decides who he's going to draft until he sees what board's in front of him at that time.
Oh, I would agree. And it's crazy how it works out, too, because you never know what he's going to do, but he's not typically taking the pick that he has. He's either moving up or down. He looks at his board. He's like, okay, well, that player should not be there. Let's move up and get him. Oh, well, I can't believe this guy's still here. We're going to take him. Or, wow, we like the values here. Let's move back. Just craziness, how he's able to work it.
Yep, and then they got lucky too in the 2nd round getting Eli Stowers, who the consensus second best tight end in the class. But I might even put him above Shadik too, just because of where he goes. You got Goddard that's in front of him, but Goddard hasn't been doing much, and he's been getting injured lately. So they're looking for that replacement. I think Goddard will be on the move after this year.
Well, so Goddard's only on a 1-year deal. They brought him back late in the offseason. It was just before the draft, I think, actually. And with Stowers, he can do those things Goddard can do. And Goddard last year, I want to say it was like 8 or 9 touchdowns. It was his highest touchdown total he's had. So he
Yeah,
was
just
able to
not a
do
lot of
that. But
yards, right? He was a
yeah,
red zone threat.
and that's what's so interesting about Stowers is that he can give you that after catch stuff too. So he's got the size to be that red zone threat. If he can learn that red zone from Goddard the way we saw last year, and then add some after the catch stuff, you got yourself a nice little tight end there. And
Well, with how many tight ends were taken in this draft too, and how early, I think we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel. So you might see Stowers and Goddard on the field at the same time.
Oh, I agree. And with us expecting them to trade AJ Brown, if you subtract AJ Brown from the offense and look at the pieces they added, at least in the draft here with Stowers and Mekhi Lemon, who do you think makes their team better, AJ Brown or the two?
Or the
I still
what?
think it's AJ or the two they added.
Well, it's AJ Brown because he knows what,
Yeah.
like, he's already prepared for the NFL, right? Like AJ Brown to me is one of the top 10 wide receivers. It's just they don't use him like that. So when I'm going out with thinking how the Eagles game plan, I think they're better off with these two because they're going with more weapons. It's more people to cover on the field instead of just focusing on AJ Brown and throwing double coverage on, where you hardly throw to AJ Brown as it is anyways.
I think in the long run, it definitely helps their offense because it gives them more options and it makes the defense have to plan for more.
Yeah, and it's still sounding like AJ Brown's going to go to the Patriots.
Yep, it does still seem that way. June 1st, I think, is when they're saying.
Yeah, that's when it won't be until at least then. So pretty interesting. They also took a quarterback in the 5th, Cole Payton from North Dakota State. That's who it was. I was looking at the wrong sheet or with the Cowboys, which was like surprising. And then they got edge rusher in the 7th, Keyshawn James Newby from New Mexico. Do you know much about him?
I do not.
Yeah,
I didn't watch a lot of New Mexico.
No, me neither. But these small school guys, I like to because like, why wouldn't you have waited to draft? Like, sign him as an undrafted free agent. Like, what makes this guy worth drafting? So I got to look more into him and find out more. But otherwise, pretty good draft. We can move on to the Detroit Lions. So what did you give Detroit?
Detroit got a B for me. They attack the lines like they do. It's just I didn't love all of it. Their first round pick, Blake Miller, I like him. I think he's a Dan Campbell kind of guy. He's one that I actually thought the Steelers might end up with. Class ended up just different with some of those guys, but overall, I think their class was pretty solid. Trying to think, who was their second round pick?
Derek Moore, edge from Michigan. And then their 4th round, they went linebacker. That was their next pick, Jimmy Roldan from Michigan as well. So they stuck in the state of Michigan for this first 3 rounds.
It's interesting watching Lions drafts is they tend to get a lot of Michigan and like even we talked about with the UFL, they kept taking players from the Michigan Panthers because they were playing in Ford Field. So it's one of those things they seem to really like people that are Midwest, right?
Or just guys they get comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because they see them playing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They also got in the 5th, Keith Aubrey, the 2nd from Arizona State, which I thought was a great steal in the 5th.
Yep, he was one of the ones that stood out. I think there was a corner, or if I remember right, it was a tackle from Ohio State late in this draft.
Well, not to the Lions.
Maybe. No, maybe I'm thinking of another.
The Lions got a defensive tackle, Skylar Gill Howard from Texas Tech, which I was surprised he went that far.
Yeah, and that was Texas Tech. They had a good defense last year too.
Yep. So, I think, man, going through all these drafts, I think every single starter for Texas Tech on the defense was drafted at some point.
I think so. I think it was their highest number of drafted players in school history, which makes sense because they also spent more than they have in school history.
Well, got it, right? If you want to win.
Yep.
All right, absolutely. Let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings. I gave them a B.
I also gave them a B. I wasn't thrilled with it. It was just, and Caleb Banks, I like him, but he is high risk. I mean, you could take that risk at 18. But after that, I think part of this just comes down to who's their GM, who's calling these shots right now. You know, they didn't have a lot of capital, and the capital they did have, I think they took a punter or a kicker later in the draft.
No, that was Green Bay.
Okay, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Just-
they took
just an odd
running
one.
back in the 6th, Demon Claiborne from Wake Forest, which I was a little surprised they took one there with all the holes that they had to fill. In the
Right, and that's
second, they
part of
took
it, right?
in the second they took a linebacker, Jake Galladay from Cincinnati. I thought that was fairly good. But to come back in the third, after you take a defensive tackle in the first, you're taking another one, Dominique Orange from Iowa State. That to me just seemed like a wasted pick, and one of the reasons why I gave them a B. You had
Yep.
way too many holes to go 2 defensive tackles so early.
Right, that's what I mean. Like just looking at these picks and the running back, like I understand, I like him. I think that with the way the Aaron Jones situation went, where it was, hey, like we really need you back, but we can't pay you, because I think that's part of their problem is they're in a pretty bad cap situation right now from some
Yeah, I think
decisions.
so.
So going running back in the 6th, like maybe you could have got him undrafted. I don't know, maybe he would have been drafted in the 7th or another team liked him, but you still had other holes, like you're saying. It's just
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
I think you try to fill those holes up top, right? Like, and then the third, they had 3 third-round picks, and you take your first one and go defensive tackle, which blew my mind. Like, and then they come back and take a tackle in Caleb Tierman from Northwestern, and then the next pick right after that, they went safety Jacoby Thomas from Miami. Now, if you're going defensive tackle in the third, why wouldn't you have taken that safety at 18 and Dylan Thiemann before the freaking Packers take him? Was it the Packers that no, the Bears took him.
No, Bears took
Yeah.
him, and it was a steal for the Bears.
Yeah, like that's what Minnesota, to me, that should have been their pick all along. So that's why I had to give them a B, because you didn't take the guy that was right for your team, in my opinion.
Well, and even still, the Browns got Emmanuel McNeil-Warren at the back of the 2nd, so they
Yeah.
still had an opportunity to take him in the 2nd. Like I said, I think looking at this draft class, it kind of says to me like there's a lack of direction at the top, which makes sense because they fired their GM right before the draft.
Yep. Makes it hard to do things. All right.
Sure it is.
We can move on now to the Green Bay Packers, and they didn't have a first-round pick, obviously, because they traded it for Micah Parsons.
No.
So their first pick in the 2nd was cornerback Brandon Cece from South Carolina, and then they had a third-round pick where they went defensive tackle Chris McLendon from Missouri. And then I think their steal of the draft was the edge rusher Danny Dennis Sutton.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I gave them a B-. I don't like the place kicker that they took in the 7th round, Trey Smack from Florida. I understand the guy's got an 82% career field goal making percentage, and 75% of his kickoffs have been touchbacks. But you're taking a guy from Florida and you're putting him into one of the coldest states in America to kick the ball.
Well, at least he kicks inside. Oh no, Green Bay. I was thinking Minnesota still for some reason.
If it was Minnesota, yeah, okay. But the Bears in Chicago, it's just a wasted pick to me. We'll see how he works out.
Yeah,
I don't like
we'll
draft
see how he works
pickers
out.
anyways, because like after that Jake Moody experience, that's another stupid pick Kyle and friggin' John made, where friggin' 3rd round on a kicker to what, lose those games and just couldn't even trade him away. We had to drop him.
Well, that was the crazy part with him too. He was such a weird player because he started phenomenal. Didn't he make like his first 10 or 12 kicks? And then he couldn't make another one after that? I want to say it was like the first.
He made like 4 or 5, I think, and then
maybe that's what it was.
But they were long ones that he shouldn't have made.
Yeah.
And then he started doing the short ones and missing. It's like, what the?
Yep, it was
a stupid pick. But yeah, I do like the Dennis Sutton pick there in the 4th. I thought that was a great steal because me and you thought he was going to go in the 3rd on the 2nd day. So. And then they got
I don't know if I said I also gave them a B-. I thought about a C just because it just seemed very underwhelming to me. And then, like you said, adding the kicker. Just why are we doing that? I know they need one.
Sure. All right. Well, let's move on to the Chicago Bears. So they had that first pick. We just talked about them. They stole that Dylan Thiemann from Oregon after Minnesota passed on them. Couldn't believe it. But I gave the Bears a B+. I thought it was a pretty solid draft, what they had.
I gave them A- actually, because after they got Thiemann, they followed that up, and then they started addressing offensive line again. They got 2 centers, I think, if I remember right.
They got one in Logan James from Iowa in the 2nd.
Yeah, and I think he was probably the best center in this class, aside from trying to blank now, the guy from Georgia Tech that also played guard. I think he was drafted as a guard.
Yeah, he was. I forget his name right now.
Yeah, I initially mocked him to the Patriots. He ended up going before that. But getting Logan James, and they also drafted another center later, and then maybe it's the Bears that drafted an Ohio State guy in the 7th at tackle. One of these teams coming up did. I just don't remember which one. Overall, I like the draft though, and
it would be the Falcons.
that's it. Okay. And so we also talked about Xavier Thomas already on this team as that 4th round pick. Getting some speed that late in the draft, I think, is a rare thing. So I really like this Bears draft.
Yeah, he was my second favorite sleeper wide receiver in this class was Zion Thomas behind Malachi Fields, so I like that as well. They also got Malik Muhammad from Texas, the cornerback in the 4th round, which was great. So they had a decent draft, I thought.
We thought, well, at least I thought Muhammad would be day 2. I think part of it was because he came in a little smaller than people expected, but he's still 6 foot. So I really like this draft.
Yep. Solid. Bears are on the move.
Bears are, yes, they are. And they're on their way up.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the New Orleans Saints. They had the 8th overall pick, and they started out with Jordan Tyson. Then they went defensive tackle in the 2nd, Christian Miller out of Georgia, and then went to the 3rd with Oscar Delp, the tight end. I gave them a B+. I thought it was solid, but nothing really blew me away. I thought that Jordan Tyson pick, again, like so many other holes. So did you really need a wide receiver as your first one? You know what I mean? Trade back, get some more picks. The Cowboys were like begging to move up. You probably could have got a crap ton from them to go up to this pick, and I still think the Cowboys would have taken Downs here.
Yeah, and I like the B+. That's also where I'm at on that. One of the reasons that it wasn't an A is, like you said, the Tyson pick. I like the pick. I like the player. I like the fit. To me, it's more who you passed on with Caleb Downs on the board. Sonny Styles went right in front of you, which, okay, that sucks if that was your pick, but I don't think I would have pivoted to Tyson.
We also had Fanu and that the guy the Giants took there, Mungley.
Yeah, Maui Noah. Yep. And then in the 3rd round, taking Oscar Delp, he's an athletic tight end, but he, to me, feels a lot like what you already have in Juwan Johnson. So it didn't make a ton of sense to me in the 3rd. But then when you look at, like you said, with this tight end class, how many got taken? Maybe they had to take him in the 3rd.
Yeah, I think so. They went flying off the board, man. I was shocked at how quick these tight ends were just flying off.
So, I mean, some teams took 2. So
yeah. Well, they took three wide receivers, which is what the first pick just kind of blows me away, because you get Jordan Tyson in the 1st, you come back in the 4th, you take Bryce Lance, and then in the 6th, they got Baron Brown from LSU.
Well, Baron Brown is just going to be a kick returner. They even labeled him as a kick returner when they drafted him, I believe. So that's his specialty, and that's something the Saints actually needed, was another kick returner. So I don't mind that one so much. And I like the Bryce Lance pick in the 4th because of that athleticism he brings. To me, it feels a lot like, well, hey, it worked out with Rashid Shaheed. Let's try something like that similar. See if maybe we can get another value like that in the 4th.
Well, they already have that Tippin on there that does that same sort of stuff too.
Yeah, but he hasn't really worked out, and he doesn't have the same level of speed that Bryce Lance has. He's become more of a blocking guy.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me going wide receiver the 1st. You need offensive line help. So I would have went with one of those offensive linemen, and you would have got the first guy. Your guy, the first freaking guy, your top guy on the board, you would have had him, because none went until the pick after.
Sounds about right.
Let's move on to the Falcons picks. So I gave them a C. I wasn't crazy about this draft. They obviously didn't have a 1st-round pick. They used that last year to change up for James Pierce, who's in legal problems himself. So they took in the 2nd Akon Terrell from Clemson, the cornerback. Aukon.
They say it Avian. I don't know if that's like an Avian Terrell.
I would never have got that.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a nickname, but I've heard it Avian Terrell, and it's AJ Terrell's brother. So
yeah,
he was actually one I kept seeing. I kept seeing go at the end of the 1st. So to get him at the 2nd, I do like it. So I also gave him a C. But after that Avian Terrell pick, I'm not sure there's a whole lot I really liked about this draft class.
Yeah, like that was the best pick that I like. I like the fact that they brought him in with his brother too, and he was there when his brother got drafted to the Falcons, and his brother was beside him now when he gets drafted to the Falcons. Zachariah Branch in the 3rd. he's too small for me, man. Like I don't like it. I thought they had more holes they could have done. Yeah, none of these picks jump off the wall to me. There's that tackle in the 7th round, Ethan Oyanye from Ohio State that you kept
Yeah.
bringing up this.
Yep. And he was, I think, a rotational tackle for them last year, if I remember right. But going big school, Ohio State, big tackle at the end, like, okay. But again, like you said, just very underwhelming class. On Zachariah Branch, I like him. I think his size, the way that it could work in the NFL is with his route running, and his bend is crazy. I don't know if you've seen some of his highlights. Dude, he can get like 3 inches off the ground moving full speed. It's crazy.
Who's this?
Zachariah Branch with his size.
Oh, yeah. He's good, shifty wide receiver. Just,
Yeah.
I don't like those smaller guys. Like, he's only like 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
So
And
he's going to have a specific role, which is going to limit him, which is why I wouldn't touch him for fantasy purposes. But he's going pretty early, man. Back of the 2nd, early 3rd.
yeah, I think Atlanta was looking at this as like, hey, we had Darnell Mooney. We were okay with him. Let's try it with Branch because they're pretty similar size. I think Mooney might be an inch or 2 taller.
Well, Mooney's
But-
6 foot, I think. 5'11", 6 foot.
Is he? I thought he was shorter than that. I thought he was like 5'10".
No, I think he's fairly decent because he's been on the outside for quite a while, even with the Giants. 5'11" at
Well,
the lowest.
He was outside with the Bears too. It's
Yeah.
just I always thought he was a smaller guy. Maybe it's his weight.
He's smaller. Yeah, he's thin.
Yeah.
He's like 180 pounds. But
Well, and that's the thing that I think could make this interesting with Branch in Atlanta is it is Kevin Stefanski, and like, yeah, last year was a shit show in Cleveland. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. But I think he'd be more engaged again in Atlanta, you would hope.
well, it's Pierce. So
So-
because I saw a clip of Bijan talking about him and the
Mhm.
new offensive coordinator. He's like, "Oh, Kevin Stefanski's got a great mind. I can't wait for this season." So he's like pumped, and then he talks about whoever they brought in for the offensive coordinator. He's like, but he doesn't call the plays. Kevin does. So
Right.
it's gonna be great. But he's pumped about it.
Yep.
So, but why wouldn't you be, right? Because
Yeah,
new
exactly.
coach brings in new life. They've had a losing season, so
Yep.
we can move on to the Carolina Panthers draft now. So I gave them an A. I thought they were pretty solid. They started out in the 1st round with Moreland Freeman from Georgia, came back in the 7th with defensive tackle Lee Hunter from Texas Tech, and then in 3rd got Chris Brazel, which is a major leap up in talent from Leggett.
Oh, I agree. I like that Brazel pick. I also love that they were able to get Monroe Freeling at 19. And to me, this draft also says that the Panthers are now shifting their draft process to best available. Because it sounds like they had no expectation that Freeling would be there at 19. And I don't think they actually needed a tackle. They needed inside, I believe. So by doing this, they can also develop Freeling. And if one of their tackles goes down, you have a plug and play starter. Or he beats out one of your guys and you bump one of your other guys inside. So
Yeah.
I love the fact that they're trying to protect Bryce Young now. And he's going to have to perform or he done.
Well, no more excuses. That first year, like, it was understandable. It was a dismantled team.
Yep.
But yeah, they took Will Lee, the 3rd in the 4th from Texas A&M. I thought that was a good deal there for them. They worked on the line and a little bit of the defense. Solid draft, I thought. All
Yep,
right,
I
we'll
would
move
agree.
on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, our final team for grade the draft. I gave them an A. They got the steal of the draft, getting Ruben Bain at 15. Small arms, all that talk about driving, and I think he kill someone coming out, but I think these teams knew that.
It wasn't. It was similar. They said it was similar to Rashee Rice, where it was a hit and run, but he didn't kill anybody.
All right. Either way, like, it's still a steal, man. He should have been a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I would agree. And getting him at 15, like, that sets up your draft nicely. That's why, like, with the Cardinals, like, you love Jeremiah Love, and getting him at 3 isn't a killer value, but you added a player that is a playmaker that's going to change your team. That's what they just did at 15 with Ruben Bain Jr. And then I like that they
Yep.
were able to follow it up and have a good draft, and they ended up with Ted Hurst. I think he's a good fit, especially losing Mike Evans.
They got
So now
Joshua
he's got a role.
Trotter, the linebacker,
Yeah,
in
Josiah
Missouri in the
Trotter.
2nd, which is a good. And then they went Keontae Scott from Miami, the cornerback, in the
Yep.
4th round, which was a great steal there too. Like, they got a lot of steals.
They really did. I didn't even put together that they also got Keontae Scott because he's one that a lot of guys were talking about. Like, as a safety, could be one of the better guys in this class, especially with athleticism. I was hearing comps to last year's Nick Iminori. I don't know how accurate that is, but if you're getting a guy like that this late, man, what a
Yeah.
draft.
And then they worked on defensive tackle and guard, and then they got a tight end in the 6th. So they did very well. And that is how we see the draft classes of the NFL that just happened.
NFL time. Let's get into it. The league that the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has things to do with. United Football League.
All right, we're into the UFL talk, and we'll start out here with the first game between the Birmingham Stallions and the Orlando Storm. And Birmingham won this 20-17. They were up 17-14 at the half, so there was only the one field goal by each team going forward. Dorian Thompson-Robinson had 271 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. For Orlando, Plummer had 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Snoop Connor for the Stallions had 61 yards on the ground, and Justin Ross had 7 catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown. For the Storm, or KJ Hamler, which is a name people would know for the Vikings, 8 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. And this was the final game of the weekend between these two, and it's a great one to end the week for the UFL.
Oh, I agree. And it was actually a well-played football game. I caught a little bit of this, not the whole thing. But Jack Plummer had probably his best game of the season in here. Like, he had a big week 1, I think it was, but this game he seemed a lot more polished, and both defenses really stepped up their game. You could see the halftime adjustments really came in. 4 touchdowns in the first half and only a field goal in the second half. But overall, pretty good game. Orlando Storm, they're a lot better than I thought they were. I'll say that.
Yeah, well, they're sitting at 4-2 even after this loss, so they're one of the better teams, which is pretty good. We'll move on to the next game here, which is the first game of the weekend. The St. Louis Battlehawks won 16-3 over the Louisville Kings. Harrison Frost for the Battlehawks threw 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Hakeem Butler was his top receiver with 47 yards. On the other side, you had Chandler Rogers, had 199 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And James Robinson, man, I think he had 7 carries for 13 yards. Not looking too good.
Nope, that's
that knee is done.
Which is crazy because he looked a lot better last week. It was like 13 for 60 or 70 yards. We thought maybe this is a league he could have dominated, but they just not the same after that injury, man.
Nope.
7 for 13 ain't gonna do it.
Well, he came out of nowhere in the NFL, and then just after that injury was basically nothing. I haven't seen a fall like that.
No, it's crazy.
Of a player like him, like Gurley would be the only one I think would be close, but his talent level was like way different. It was expected, right?
Oh, right.
James Robinson just wasn't. So fun to see him in the league, though. I don't know. I got a soft spot in my heart because he was one of those guys I picked to blow up, and then he did.
Yep. Philip Lindsay was another one.
Next game we got here, the Columbus Aviators hosted the Houston Gamblers and won 24-17 for Houston. Tua's brother threw for 65 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Columbus, Jalen McClendon had 187 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. His top receiver was Tay Martin with 103 yards.
Yeah,
and Columbus, the score looks closer than this game actually was because Columbus had complete control of it the whole way through.
Yes, they did. And the touchdowns that were scored on the other side were garbage time touchdowns. But Columbus has really turned the corner too. I didn't expect to see this kind of game from them.
Nope, and they're sitting at 2-4 after this win, so maybe they're climbing back up.
Yeah.
All right, then the final game of the weekend, Dallas Renegades went to Washington, D.C. to play the Defenders, and they lost 24-6 and just got walloped. Austin Reed threw for 258 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. For the other side, Tamu, the rating MVP of the UFL, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. His top receiver was Briley Moore with 3 catches for 59 yards, so nothing too crazy.
No, and this Tamu is putting together another awesome season. Probably the front runner for MVP right now too, the way he's got this team playing. And this is the game that I actually caught some of it, and most of it. I mean, sorry. And Teamu was hitting on those deep passes. Like the section that I was watching, it was actually a closer game than the final score because it was still competitive and it was back-to-back touchdowns from both teams. And then there was a stretch where Teamu was hitting 50-yard passes on a dime. Now, it could have been blown coverage, but it was an exciting game nevertheless. And then I like the sideline access that they give too. Like
Yeah, I
hearing
wish
all
they'd
the
bring a
extra.
little bit more of that. I like how they do the ref stuff too. Like
Mhm.
with ref talking to the referees on the floor, like you have a booth ref who can
Yeah.
basically look over everything. I also like how you can challenge plays, even if they weren't called on the field. So if the refs missed a holding call on the line, you can throw a challenge flag and have that penalty then called. Like these are little
Yep.
things great in the NFL eventually.
That I agree. And I think that's one of the reasons why the NFL has this partnership here where they want them to work out the kinks of those rules in this league. So by the time it gets to the NFL, it's a little smoother.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, let's get into the UFL Week 7 matchups. The first one we got here is Friday at 8 p.m. on Fox. We've got Columbus going in to play the St. Louis Battlehawks, and I'm going to give the edge to this one in St. Louis. They've got the home field advantage where I think it's the only time it really matters in this league is in St. Louis because
yeah.
they seem to sell it out every time. So you know you're
Yep.
getting a bigger crowd there, and they've just got the better team.
I agree. And St. Louis, I think they're trying to make a bid to try to get the NFL to come back. Like St. Louis has always been a huge sports town. And I think they're showing through this league. They really miss their Rams.
Oh, yeah, big time they do. Well, the Rams go there back and forth between there and LA all the time.
Yep. Sure do.
All right, the second game we got here is Saturday at 1:30 p.m., so it's an odd time. On Fox, Louisville Kings going against the DC Defenders. Now, this one here to me is going to be a pretty good game. Louisville's been playing better of late, so they should give a great little challenge here. But I think Jordan Tamu and the boys will still end up winning this one at home.
I think so too. Like I said, I think he's trying to put together another MVP season, and so far he's on pace. I don't see him slowing down in this one.
Nope, not at all. All right, then the third game we got here is at Saturday at 8 p.m. So we have two games on Saturday. This one's on ESPN, and this is between Dallas and the Birmingham Stallions. Now, Dallas is at 3-3, and Birmingham's at 2-4, but they've been picking up the last couple of games. So I think this one's going to be a sneakily good game, especially if the Stallions play as well defense as they did last week.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what it comes down to is the Stallions defense. Can they hold up? Because their offense, I think, they're going to work. They're going to put it together.
Yep. All right. And the final game we have is the Orlando Storm going in to play the Houston Gamblers on Sunday at 6 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. Houston's sitting at 2-4 and Orlando's at 4-2, so this should be an easy win for Orlando.
Yeah, I think so, especially the way they've been playing. They're coming off a loss. They're going to want to come out with a victory this week, and I think they get it Sunday night.
So we'll see what Jake Plummer and the boys can do.
Sit down and talk about all the world stuff that goes on around the world under your nose. Never know where we'll end up. Come with us and we'll chase that rabbit down there over there today.
All right, we're into Shine the Light, the final portion of the show where me and Alex like to talk about weird and strange things. And today we're going to talk about the Republic of Rose Island. Now, if you don't know what this is, it was a short-lived micronation where one man built a platform in the middle of the Adriatic Sea, 11 kilometers off the coast of Italy. So this is what it looks like, the platform here. And it basically just looks like an oil rig platform where he built some buildings on there. There was like a post office. What else was there? Commercial, like there was restaurants, a store, and a currency exchange place because he had his own currency that he made. It was built by a man named Giorgio Rosa, which is the guy on the right there in the sunglasses on this boat that you can see. And he made the platform, declared himself president, and declared independence from the world on May 1st, 1968. Now, when I say this thing was short-lived, he basically the Italian government was like, well, this guy's just trying to avoid taxes and hosting tourism and all this sort of stuff. So basically went on to the platform and arrested him and took him off in June the same year. Got something
Not surprising. I mean, he's also only 11 kilometers offshore. So, like, not far at all.
No, but that 11 kilometers puts them just outside that international waters. So I don't know how Italy was able to do all this sort of stuff that they were able to do later on.
Maybe he mismeasured because 11 kilometers is not far. That's like 4 miles, right?
Something like that. But you only need to be 5, I think, maybe. But even the line, they have it outside of the international waters here. The Italian government took a hold of it, like I said, in June 1968. When they went to go demolish it by hand, because it was in the ocean, so they didn't want things to go. It was built so tough that they couldn't do it. So what they decided to do was to get their Navy to fire torpedoes or bombs at it. The first bomb did nothing. The second bomb again did nothing. So then they had to do one by air the third time, which is this picture you see here of them blowing up the platform. But this guy made it so well, it withstood 2 bombs and was still structurally sound.
Yeah, just crazy. Like, what the hell did he build this thing out of?
Yeah, just nuts, man. Because even when you look at it, it just looks like a rickety old shack held on to like 8 posts basically built into the ground. But apparently he built it right where it wasn't going to go anywhere. It would probably survive natural disaster.
But you got to wonder too, like, is it that he built it that well, or is the Italian Navy that incompetent?
Makes you wonder, right?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just one of those crazy things that were out there that most people don't know about. So go out and check out Rose Island if you got some time. Thanks for watching the show. And remember to question everything, people. Smash that like button.
Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Have a good one.